Well, how goes it, everybody? It's been a long time since I've posted a video. I'm out here in the woods right now, just taking a kind of a casual stroll. I haven't been out in the woods for a couple months. Just bought a new house, so we've got some good things coming in the future. But all that aside, there's something out here I wanted to show you guys really quick. Right here we can see the yellowish green flowers of the spice bush, the common spice bush, or Lindera benzoin, however the hell it's pronounced, I'm not sure. These flowers are pollinated by the spice bush swallowtail, who absolutely loves these delectable flowers. This is one of the earliest flowering plants that we have here in the eastern woodlands, and I'm actually really happy to see them, though it's not terribly surprising considering the warm weather that we've been having. I'm actually surprised the forest here isn't having as many plants come up as I've seen elsewhere. But interestingly enough, I'm out here in Morgan Monroe, and Morgan Monroe usually always seems to be, I'd say probably about a week to 3 weeks behind everywhere else in central Indiana, which I find strange. Like if I go up north to Southwest Park, I guarantee there would be a lot more plants there than there are here, which is just really odd. My theory, and keep in mind there's no scientific evidence backing any of this up, this is just one redneck's theory, and that is all the ground rock, bedrock, is very, very close to the soil here, and I think that for some reason keeps it cooler and doesn't warm up as fast. Therefore, in turn, making the plants not sprout up and bloom as early as other places where the bedrock isn't quite so close to the soil level. But again, that's just my theory. One thing I want to mention to all of you guys is right now is actually a really, really good time to go and find garlic mustard. A lot of it is coming up right now. This area that I'm entering, on and off for the past 10 plus years, I've been coming to this area and pulling garlic mustard. So there's a lot less than there used to be 10 years ago. About 10 years ago when I started, this whole area was almost covered in garlic mustard. There wasn't a whole lot of other native plants that was growing here. And just spending several hours a couple of times a year has really made a difference. And I know I'm not the only one who's done it, because I've seen other people doing the same thing. And I mentioned garlic mustard and removing it because garlic mustard is highly invasive, and it extirpates and pushes out native plants that our ecosystem actually needs. And plus you can eat it, and garlic mustard tastes amazing. Right here we have the early growth, and it's starting with these flower buds here. This is Toothwort. I've talked about this plant a couple of times on my YouTube channel. And the nice thing about Toothwort is not only are its leaves edible, you can also use the root. There's actually a small portion of the root that can be used as a horseradish substitute. Really, really interesting plant. Right next to it, we also can see these almost grass-like looking leaves with, oops, if it'll focus. We can see some of the flower buds here starting. These are spring beauties. These things are absolutely delicious. I've actually done videos on identifying these, and I've also done videos on how to harvest and prepare the corms, C-O-R-M as in Michael, corms of these plants. Here we can see some more spring beauty leaves coming up. Now these spring beauty leaves are also edible, and you can just kind of pinch these guys off and just chuck them right in a salad, or use them as a delectable trail nibble right here while you're walking in the woods. Something to keep in mind with spring beauty, though, is this plant is extremely slow growing, so harvesting the corms is something I don't recommend unless there is a whole lot of them in one area and you harvest selectively. And after you've harvested in one area, it's best to not harvest in that area again for a few years. Some of the bigger corms can get to about the size of my thumbnail, and those plants have been growing for probably anywhere from 10 to 20 years. So this is an extremely slow growing and developing plant. But whenever it flowers, it is absolutely beautiful. Even though it is diminutive and small, it is extremely beautiful. And its corms taste a lot like a potato. It's one of its nicknames is actually fairy spud. I'm noticing as I'm looking around here, you guys might be able to see these little splotches of green all throughout here. And those are all leaves of the spring beauty. All right, so that's a really good sign. I was kind of, honestly, I was a little nervous. Of course, I've been reading, I read an article the other day that this area in the Midwest is around 15 to 20 days ahead of schedule normally for the plant communities. So I'm kind of surprised and I'm kind of not, because I never know what I'm going to get or see whenever I walk into these woods. It's always just so unpredictable. This little beautiful plant here is known as the Harbinger of Spring. It gets that name because it is a spring ephemeral, which means it's also one of the earliest blooming wildflowers that we have. And it's named Harbinger, meaning bringer of spring. So this definitely means with the spring beauties and the toothworts and the spicebush flowers that spring is certainly on its way. As I'm sure a lot of you guys have known by the, odd 70-degree weather that we've been having here in the Midwest. As I look around, I see quite a few more. There's one right over there. There's some more right over here as well. And while these plants are small, they are a very, very good sign, because it means better things to come and a good foraging season, at least in my experience. Every time I see these this early, I usually know it's going to be a really good foraging season. And it looks like the old trail has been sort of washed out by a creek. Not too uncommon in this section of the forestry, to be quite honest. Like many things in life, foraging is a constant learning experience. And to be honest, I don't think I'll ever know all there is to know, and I don't think anyone ever could about foraging. And really, if you ask me, I think that's a pretty good thing. All right, let's take a gander and see how cold the creek is. It's probably almost freezing cold. Oh yeah. Whoa. See how long it takes for my fingers to go numb. No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to do that. Every time I see a creek like this, for some reason I'm always tempted to just take a big old slurp. I don't know why. I know that's like real bad news, bears don't do it, but I'm just always real tempted to take a big slurp of it. I think that's probably just because I love water. I like drinking water, that is. I don't particularly like swimming in it. That scares me. Believe it or not, that's actually one of my big fears, is large bodies of water. They terrify the living hell out of me. Which is odd, because I'm actually considered a really strong swimmer. But if you guys have made it this far, tell me what's one thing that really scares you. What's one of your fears? But this area that I'm in is one area that I generally use to kind of gauge how the plants are progressing throughout the season, especially in the early spring. Oh, cool. Check this out. Here we have several leaves of putty root. Now, putty root is considered rare, and it is an orchid. Normally, whenever I find putty root, I'll usually only find just one, I'll normally just find like one solitary leaf. I usually don't find clusters like this. So that's really good. That tells me that this plant is starting to spread a little bit here in the forestry, which is really nice to see. Right here is an interesting plant. This is the leaves of the great star chickweed, or star chickweed, which is a native chickweed here to the eastern woodlands that grows in, well, woodlands. I usually only find this in woodlands. I've never found it anywhere else. And I actually have done an identification video on this plant as well on this channel. The cool thing about the star chickweed is it is edible just like our other chickweeds. I don't find it to have near as good of a flavor, in my personal opinion, as your common chickweed, but it's definitely better than the hairy chickweed or mouse ear chickweed as it's otherwise known. Now, great star chickweed has large flowers, and by large, I mean they're not that large, sorry. They're more about the size of my thumbnail, but they are very large for chickweed. So this is really cool to see this coming up as well, and probably in about 3 weeks or so, it'll probably be flowering. Part of me is regretting bringing my boken. I got a Charlie horse on my back, one of my back muscles a few days ago. I've been slowly working it out, but the way I have my boken set up here, it's kind of digging in. So I'm probably going to regret that later. But, oh well. It's better to be out and about than stuck inside moping around. Here we can see a toothwort that has started to flower. We see this white flower, we see some pink flower buds here. Toothwort will have a couple different colors of flowers. Usually they're whitish pink, but they can be white and they can be pink, or any shade from white to pink. Right here we have a big stand of Yukka. This is a very, very interesting plant. The leaves of this plant can be used for cordage or for fibers. They can be used to make things like sandals and stuff even. The root of the plant is commonly used as a fish poison. It'll kind of poison the fish, make them float to the surface. The root contains saponins, which means it'll also make a very nice, gentle, and somewhat mild soap that you can use to clean your hands with. If in a desperate situation, of course. It is biodegradable, so that's nice. If you do use it in waterways, be careful. It will poison fish and other small creatures. It is also illegal to use as a fish poison for fishing in most, if not all, states. I'm not quite sure on that, so check your local laws, ordinance, all that blah-de-blah stuff. Here we can see some of the leaves of this Yukka. Very tough leaves. As you can see, it's kind of hard to break. It took a little bit of force to break these guys. But it is a yucca. It's one of 2 yucca species that I'm aware of that is native to the eastern United States. This very ugly looking mushroom is a devil's urn. This is a mushroom that some people will confuse for black trumpets, which black trumpets are an edible mushroom that usually grow right up against beech trees, usually much later in the year. Devil's urn is commonly found around this time of year in the spring. I'm kind of surprised to see it, then again kind of not. Because if we look up there, there is a little bit of gaps there in the canopy. There's no leaves. And so this area has probably been getting quite a bit of sunlight, which has basically made this guy fruit. So this is devil's urn. It is a poisonous mushroom, so please do not harvest this mushroom thinking you're going to get a black trumpet. It looks, of course, nothing like a black trumpet, but some people make that mistake anyways. And as you can see, it does look kind of like a little urn or a little cup. Really cool looking mushroom, though it is kind of ugly in my opinion, but it's beautiful in its own right. See, these are the things that we foragers really, really enjoy. Just coming out and seeing the diversity of different plants all throughout the year. It's always incredible to see. I absolutely love it. Alright, that's a pretty good little feeder stream there coming out of that ravine. Nice little cool little waterfall. See if I can zoom in on that guy. Derriere. That looks pretty cool. This drop off looks like it's probably about 15 feet. It's kind of hard to see the height on camera. And probably, I don't know, 25, 30 feet across, give or take. How much you want to bet I can backflip that thing? Just kidding. All right, here you can see some chickweed growing in the creek. This is something that I always tell people. These are the areas that I like harvesting chickweed from the most, because look how large these leaves get. Look how delectable and lush these guys are. These are always so delicious, always the best tasting chickweeds. I've never found chickweeds that taste as good and are as big and lush as common chickweed growing in these types of environments, usually right up along the edge of a creek, or in some cases, actually in the creek. Chickweed is an interesting plant like that. It'll just kind of grow wherever it wants. Here is a Bic lighter next to these leaves, so you can get an idea of how big these leaves actually are. If you see chickweed in your yard, the leaves are going to be extremely diminutive, probably about the size of this little indention here. Versus here you can see they're about the size of the red button on the lighter. And here we have, as you can see, what I was talking about earlier with garlic mustard. Here you can see some garlic mustard right here. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this guy out because it's invasive as hell. And this time of year, these roots just come right up, real easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And garlic mustard actually goes good with lemon if you like lemon. I do not particularly care for lemon, but a lot of people like mixing garlic mustard leaves in with some lemon juice for a pesto. Thankfully, this is the only one I've seen so far down here. So that tells me that my efforts have not been in vain over the past 10 years or so of removing garlic mustard from this area. So I want to pop this guy into my backpack and continue on the hike. Now this is interesting. Messes of hair. First I thought it was poo, but I'm not, as I poke it here, I'm not seeing any poo inside of this. I wonder if this was a bobcat with a really bad hairball or something. Wouldn't surprise me. We do have a lot of bobcats around here. Alright, well, it was a pretty nice little hike. I do have to turn around and head back. I have some things to take care of back at home. Really nice hike out today. Saw a couple nice people out on the trail, so that's always good. I love seeing people get out and about in nature. We saw a lot of really awesome plants today. It's good to see the progression of things. I think this is going to be an excellent year for foraging, so that's excellent. I'm looking forward to making more videos and getting back consistently to once a week, hopefully twice a week, but more realistically probably once a week uploading. So we're going to go back to crossing these creeks, and I'm going to go ahead and hop on off here for now, and I will catch back up with you guys here in a little bit. I think that's going to about do it for this video, guys. I really thank all of you guys for following this video and following my channel, and for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will see you guys in the next one, hopefully here in a few more days. Stay tuned.